Good evening, good evening, good evening. My name is Reginald Isilian II. And today we got a lot to talk about, man. Alright? Today we will be talking about the topic of implicit bias. Okay? Now, see, I wasn't too familiar with this topic up until today. Right? So I took it upon myself to do some research, and the definition I came up with is the following. I said implicit bias refers to the unconscious attitudes, stereotypes, or associations that influence our judgments and behaviors toward different groups of people. Okay, these biases operate automatically, often without conscious awareness, and can affect decisions and interactions in ways that reinforce societal inequalities. Right? So, as I was researching, I was looking at different ways that you might see implicit bias, right? 1, criminal justice, right? 2, employment. 3, education. 4, healthcare. 5, I just said media representation overall. There were a lot of things I feel like went into the media category. And then 6, I just said everyday interaction. Everyday interaction. Every day. Right? So, I'm going to briefly touch on these. Most of my research came from CNN. But CNN and Britannica. CNN and Britannica. So, briefly, just going to describe each of these. Criminal justice. Criminal justice, studies show that black individuals are more likely to be perceived as threatening or leading to higher rates of policing or crime and things like that, right? Employment, resumes with traditionally white-sounding names receive more callbacks than those of black or Latino-sounding names, which is so crazy because one of the reasons my name is Reginald, Reg for short. My brother's name is Ryan. And I remember my mom telling me the biggest reasons why I'm a junior, so that's kind of why I got my name. But my brother especially, she wanted to make sure we didn't have black-sounding names for this very reason. Which at the time, and even up to now, I didn't realize that fell into implicit bias. So, like, my uncle's name is Daquan, right? And my aunt's name is Taisha. Tiana, my other aunt, my Damon, Deborah, like just naming, those are inherently black names. Reginald and Ryan can go either way, which is why she gave us those names, right? Educations. Teachers oftentimes have lower expectations for students of color. And what's also crazy about that, a connection I also made with my dad made sure to go to all my parent-teacher conferences, every single one, because he wanted to make sure that I had a father in my life, because he didn't even want the perception of or maybe this that and that falls in that implicit bias, because he wanted to be treated any differently. Healthcare, Lord, implicit biases among medical professionals can lead to disparities in pain management, treatment recommendations, and overall quality of care for black and other non-white patients. Media representation. News covers often portrays black individuals in more negative contexts. And I've seen that. I have. Like, it's crazy. Like, the way they portray black people is a whole lot different. Simple example, right? We go search up costumes, right? I've run into this. Search up costumes for a lawyer. You won't find white people. Okay. Now, if I look up robber, thief, thug, why is there a lot of black people, right? And it's like, I'm not trying to make this into like this huge thing, but it's like, it just makes you think, like, why is that how we're being represented? You know what I mean? And then the last category I created was everyday interactions. Everyday interactions. Whether it be microaggressions or assuming that black and brown people are less educated or more athletic, which I'll get to in a second, or out of place in a predominantly white space, right? So going to the TED Talk, one example from the TED Talk was the little boy that was on the plane, right? That was talking about, oh, like I see my dad, right? And him saying, I hope he don't blow up the plane. And I was kind of like, why the hell would he say, what are you talking about? Just like the mom was like, what are you talking about? Like, what? And it's crazy because that's how we be getting presented. And oftentimes, I feel like in a weird way, I don't want to say like we're groomed or anything like that, but like, I feel like subtly we're taught that that's what black people are, because that's all we see. Hence the fact that when my mom's watching something on TV, she always gets upset when she sees black men playing roles where they're beating women, or they're the thug, or they're not in their son's life, or all the above, because she hates how both black men and women are represented sometimes. And it kind of made me think. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to be white. I did. And at the time, I really didn't understand why. But going back to earlier when I said about being in predominantly white spaces, like, I felt like I didn't belong, or I felt different. And oftentimes, people, both black and white people, brown people, everybody would make fun of like how dark my skin was. And I think my feelings were never hurt. It bothered me. I was like, but it was more so like, why are y'all, like, what's up? But that made me feel like, dang, like I'd be cooler maybe, or I'd fit in more if I was a white boy. If I was white. One thing in particular, my hair. I was like, man, I wish I wanted white hair. And that's because, here's the thing. All of my favorite cartoon characters had that kind of hair. All my favorite superheroes. All the video game characters. I remember one of my favorite characters is Goku, who is a, I know I'm going to lose you a little bit. Goku, or maybe not, let me not disrespect you, but Goku's a Saiyan, right? So he's an alien technically, so he's not a white man, but he's presented as a white man. He's a white man, right? And he has that hair, that black hair that you can brush through, that's nothing like mine, that can do all these cool things. I'm like, man, I want that kind of hair. Danny Phantom, I want that kind of hair. Shark Boy from Shark Boy and Lava Girl, I want that kind of hair. I didn't often see me. And that's hence the fact that I wanted these kinds of things. But when I did see black people, they were doing things like robbing folks, blowing things up. They was in the Crips and Bloods. That's how I saw black people. You know, so it's like, at first I'm like, why would he say that? Huh? But then again, it's like, no, I can understand that. And another point, I was reading some, I think it was on Britannica, talking about how sometimes people assume, going along with like medically, like black people and white people are different, obviously, but they're treated differently because of that, right? Both still human beings, but black people have a history with diabetes and things like that, right? So one thing in particular I definitely resonated with was the whole idea that black people are more athletic, right? I remember in middle school, it was this whole thing of like, people just so casually said, oh, black people are good at basketball. That was just the known thing. Black people good at basketball. Black people athletic, can do anything, and other stuff. Some other vulgar things too that I won't get into. But basically, if you are a black man, you come equipped with these kinds of things that the normal person, even though black people are people too, the normal person don't have, right? Okay. I remember coming back, we had this thing called Falcon Time. I went to the Decula, and we played basketball. And I remember I mistakenly said, like, oh man, like such and such play happened at this inning. And I was like, oh shoot. I meant to say this inbound. Inning being baseball, inbound being basketball. So I messed it up. How could I, a black guy, mess up such a common basketball term? And I remember I jumped to be like, I'm black, I swear, I'm black. You know what I mean? And I think of it now and I'm like, what's up with that? That's implicit bias. Am I pronouncing that right? Yeah, that's implicit bias. Like, I began to believe that, oh, because I'm black, yes, I am supposed to be good at basketball, so I should know what that means. And now I'm going to lose my blackness to people who aren't black. Right? No one ever said anything about it. Teacher heard me. No one ever corrected it. And it's like, it took me a long time to love who I am as a black man. But it's crazy because that stuff really starts as a kid. A 5-year-old saying, man, I hope it doesn't blow up the plane. Because I have said, or maybe not the exact same way, but I have thought and said things in a similar way. It really starts when you're a kid. And it doesn't come from nowhere. I mean, he didn't just make it up. It's coming from somewhere, you know? Now, there are good forms of representation. For one quick example, I'm at 11 minutes. Yikes. But one quick example is like when anytime I watch Family Feud, I see a black family, I root for the black family. That's representation. I see me. You know what I mean? But also, I think where people get it wrong sometimes is when they do these reality TV shows that's supposed to be reality, but it's a black woman working this job, just this job, cleaning, being Superwoman. No, that's not how no. And I think it sounds backwards. No, we're portraying the black woman doing everything. But what you miss is that black women want to be cared for. Black women want to be nurtured just like how they nurture others. They're not always Superwoman. But then also, you got black women being portrayed as ghetto or masculine because they are independent. It's like, it just goes to show, listen, black artists, and I'm in theater, I'm an actor, and this is something that I think about. Black artists need to write, need to create, and need to portray the black man and woman, black, brown, whatever the case may be, and we need to represent them in the right way, because at the end of the day, we are the only ones that can, right? I'm gonna wrap this up. So in conclusion, implicit bias. It is definitely something that I had no idea influenced me as a kid. Something I was familiar with today. But when we think about these things, criminal justice, employment, education, healthcare, media representation, everyday interactions, even how it influences even a 5-year-old, right? It's important to recognize these things because they're not okay, you know? No reason why a 5-year-old should even be thinking about anyone blowing up a plane, period. And it's not just with black people. I can sit here and say with Muslims, oh, they have bombs, they got this, and like as a kid hearing these things as jokes, but that's not funny. You know what I mean? That's not funny or appropriate. And that's just a slight example, because we are conditioned to think, oh, because this man is Muslim, because this man looks a certain way, you know what I mean? Because he might have a turban or some kind of head covering, because his beard might come out such a length, he's a threat to us and the plane. And we make these jokes, and like even back to media representation on Instagram, I see all kinds of crazy stuff that's like ha ha he he, but it's not funny. It just isn't, because you're portraying people like this, and you might think it's a joke, but there are people who legit believe that, oh, if I see a Muslim person, they equal this that, and that's not cool. It just isn't. So yeah, implicit bias is definitely something that is predominant in our world, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And I'm glad that that 5-year-old who said on the plane his mom is right there to correct that, because that's just not right. No, black people aren't all just this. White people aren't just all just this. Muslims aren't all just this. It's not true. Thank you for joining my TED Talk. Quick episode. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Kennesaw State University. And I'd like to thank our sponsors, Intro to Black Studies. Thank you for sponsoring this video. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Atlanta Falcons. We're not in the playoffs right now. I'm not happy about that. It's okay though. I think our other sponsor, the Lakers. We just traded LeBron. I'm not happy about that either. I'm going to get back on track. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoy yourself. Happy Black History Month. You have a great day.